Friends, I believe I am live. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Break Live in the afternoon here on the GM Philosophy YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Hey, drop me a comment. Let me know if you can hear me. Make sure my audio is working. I've had a strange audio glitch today. Want to make sure that it's not carrying over into this. I think I have it fixed, but just want to make sure. We're going to dive into this topic of self-care for Game Masters. Now, quick before we dive into this, I just want to tell you that the wisdom from this video was compiled in our Discord. I shared this topic early in the Discord, and the Discord members dropped their wisdom. And I'm talking pages and pages of wisdom. Listen, all of those of you who added to this in the Discord, you really outdid yourselves because we have pages and pages of wisdom. And here's what I did. And you'll have to let me know what you think about this. I would like to know in the comments if you like my approach here. Usually my approach is that I give my 2 cents worth and then I share the collective wisdom of the chat. The thing is this is getting so awesome that the chat is getting too busy. I cannot follow it. And so it creates like confusion and I don't know where I am and I lose my place and it causes I think production value of the video to go down. So what we've started doing instead is I have started putting this topic in the Discord. This just started today. And then we talk about it all morning. And then I share that collective wisdom here. So I already have it prepared. Now, with that being said, I want to say, here's what I did. Because there was a lot of people commenting and having conversation in Discord and having overlapping themes, I grabbed all of that stuff and I put it in my old chat GPT and I had it organize it into points, highlighting quotes by specific users. Now, you're going to all have to let me know if you like this or not, because I think this is a new upgraded way to do this. I think that this is going to result in a better, more cohesive video for people to come back and watch later. And we're here to serve Game Masters, right? This is GM Philosophy. Today, I've been doing some thinking about the vision of this. And I'm just going to, you know what? I'm going to talk about this for just a second. I am hopped up on some Rockstar today. I have had probably too much caffeine. Probably too much caffeine. I've been doing some writing, some thinking about GM philosophy. And listen, there are some big things coming down the pipe. We're expanding. We're going to do some really cool new things. But here's what it really comes down to. GM philosophy is all about serving game masters. Game masters carry this hobby on their back. They carry the weight of the awesome community of TTRPGs on their back. And I'm not just talking about D&D. I'm talking about every TTRPG out there. Game masters are essential. And so I just want to give a big appreciation shout out today to all the game masters out there who are watching and those who may watch later. Thank you for all you do. You are amazing and are the reason that the hobby continues to be successful. So self-care is really important, and we're going to dive into this. Garrick is in the house. Hello, Garrick. Dr. Fibes is in the house. Hey, Dr. Fibes. Kelf, how's it going? Amanda, great to see you. Transcend Games. Hey, awesome to see you. Whispering Wisp, haven't seen you in a little while. Great to see you. Profit Roll, how's it going, Profit Roll? I'm excited for Friday. Juberstan, what up? Juberstan has a lot of great things to say. I've recently been seeing your conversations in Discord. I've been loving your insight and the things you have to add. Great additions to the Discord community. If you want to join the Discord, the link is in the pinned comment or in the description. You can also download my plot randomizer ebook in the description. Join my email list. And if you want to support the channel, I have an ebook called The Ultimate Adventure Generator. It is in the description as well. Buy that. It's $5.99. Support the channel. If you buy that, I'll consider myself supported. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. Carl Swan says you might have me as a Java Jedi in the Discord quotes. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, maybe so. It was ChatGPT that organized these. Okay. And you know what? These are so good. There are 13 points. I'm just going to start right in on this, and I'm going to give my 2 cents worth on the points. So let's just dive right into it. Self-care for GMs. How do you do it? This is key advice, okay? This is what the collective wisdom of the GMs in the GM Philosophy Discord had to say about this. So boom, let's dive into it. Number 1, prioritizing breaks and managing time effectively. Okay, there's a quote by Jubert here. Jubert, who I believe is the same Hubert Stan. I don't know how to pronounce it. But prioritizing breaks and managing time effectively. The quote here is schedule yourself, whether it be an hour a day or one day of the week, to do the work necessary to progress the next session. And also take the progression of your campaign module one shot, one session at a time. You never know what your players are going to do each session. So prioritizing breaks, managing time effectively. I think that this is actually I think that this is a really good quote and a really good tip for this reason. You don't know what your players are going to do. I have made the mistake dozens of times of working, burning the midnight oil, putting things aside to create this epic plan for the next session, and then have the players literally go in the opposite direction the minute it started. This is frustrating, but even more than frustrating, this is hard for you as the GM, making sure that you understand that players could go in another direction, and factoring that into your session prep time is really important for your self-care, because you might find yourself feeling like, man, I do all this work for nothing. You should not do a bunch of work for nothing. So work with the knowledge that your players may not do anything that you prepared, or prepare stuff that can kind of be picked up and placed in other places, right? That's my 2 cents on that tip. Boom. Let's go on to tip number 2. Share the role of GMing. So there are 2 notable quotes here. Craig Williams said, a group I play with has other players try out GMing for a one shot or so, which gives the GM a break, gives everyone a better idea how much work goes into it. That's actually a really good quote. Really good tip. Because it is true. Players don't understand. It's also true, and I've said this all along, I keep saying this, GMs make the best players. When people have experience being a GM, a DM, they're going to be the best players. That just helps to understand the role better. And then Dirty Socks 1990, shout out to Dirty Socks, says, it still didn't come from the ground, but one of them has run it. Someone else will soon take a one shot. And I know there is at least one person that is interested as well. So it is a start. And I believe that that was Dirty Socks building on Craig Williams' comment, which is, have someone run a one shot, give yourself a break, be a player, chill out for a minute. You know, it's so relaxing to be a player compared to being a game master. It's really relaxing. So, and that is a form of self-care. Be a player once in a while. So that is an awesome tip. All right, let's move on to tip number 3. Maintain open communication with players. Itch Function said this. This was a good quote that highlights this tip. I'm mostly for talking out everything I have a problem with and hope that others do the same, so we have chill games without any tension between players and or the GM. Also, be honest with your players and don't burn yourself out. It's okay to take a step back sometimes. This is really good advice. Maintaining open communication with players is really good. I have been guilty in the past of letting the stress build up too much and then burning out, when I should have just been open all the time, the whole way along, about stresses, frustrations, whatever. This is a really good piece of advice. Maintain that open communication. With that being said, I'm going to just go to the comments here real quick. Feel free to drop your comments if you want. I'm going to try to get to them here. Herminator says, I'm here listening. That's awesome. 20-sided dice says, let's hope for a cool advice today. I'll need this one. Yeah, we all need this one. Being a game master is so much fun. It's so much fun. Like for me, I love being a game master. If I were told tomorrow, you know what, GM philosopher, you do not have to run games anymore, you're going to be a player from here on out, I'd be incredibly disappointed. I'd be like, no, absolutely not. I want to be a game master. And if I play too much, like if I start to play a little bit of D&D and I'm not running a game, the itch to run a game is so strong, I cannot escape it. With that being said, it is also true that GMs do need a break. And 20-sided dice, you say, let's hope for advice. I'll need this one. You are right. All of us as GMs are going to need a little bit of self-care at some point. We're all going to feel a little burned out. We're all going to feel a little bit stressed because it is actually a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It is so much fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it is a lot of work. Let's not lie about that. Okay. Transcend Game says, agreed. Glad to have so many new contributors on the Discord. Yeah, there's actually a huge influx in the last couple of days. Jubert Stan said, yes, that's me. You said it right first time. Jubert Stan. All right. Shabam. Steven says hello. Hello, Steven. Transcend Games says DM Steve spotted in the wild. Yeah, DM Steve spotted in the wild. Throw a Pokeball at him. Maybe you can catch him, right? All right, we're going to go on tip number 4 here. Set realistic expectations. Session 0. There's a couple quotes here. Itch Function said, having a good and organized session 0 is important. You have the option to set the expectations and see if your game is really what the players want. And then Avery Juno said, an effective session 0 can save the DM and players both from unrealistic expectations. I'm really interested if ChatGPT got these quotes right. Drop me a comment if it has misquoted you. This is an experiment because I didn't double check it. I just put it in there and now I'm reading it. So let me know if it's wrong. We'll have to fix it. We'll have to adjust moving forward if I'm misquoting everybody, or if it mixed up the quotes. I don't know, but I'm hoping it got it right. Okay, but session 0. So here's where session 0 can fit into GM self-care, in my opinion. So as a GM, you have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever number of players sitting across from you. Those players are going to have certain expectations. Now, you can save yourself a lot of trouble and stress later on by making sure you manage expectations at session 0. Making sure that players know what's expected, making sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of like content, making sure everyone's on the same page as far as like, well, should there be evil players? Should there be any player versus player stuff? All this stuff. These things can cause stress. The GM is just gonna have to deal with all that unless those expectations kind of get mitigated beforehand. You can cut out a lot of that extra stuff by just talking through it in session 0. So that's why a good session 0, in my opinion, qualifies as a really excellent self-care tactic sort of in advance. The whole campaign is going to have a reduced level of stress if your session 0 is run really, really well. So tip number 5, avoid overexertion with low energy groups. Avery Juno said, don't overexert yourself on a table that isn't going to match your enthusiasm. Match the energy of the group. So the more that I read this, the more I think ChatGPT actually maybe reworded some of these, because I think I read that comment in Discord and I think Avery actually put it a slightly different way. I might be wrong though. With that being said, there's a lot of truth to this. Okay. Here's actually what I think about this. I think that gaming with a group that does not give the energy that you want to give to it, like, I almost don't know if that's the right group for you. I have known GMs who are like, oh yeah, my group is so chill. In fact, we will literally like take, 15, 20 minutes out of a break just to like talk, or people will be playing video games on their phones and we'll just kind of drift back to the game and people get around to it. And for me, that's a no. It's like, no, my time is too valuable for that. I'm here for, however many hours to play the game. I want to take it seriously. So Avery is right. Do not overexert yourself on a table that isn't going to match your enthusiasm. But I might even go a step further and say, you know what? If that group isn't matching your enthusiasm, you might want to think seriously about the idea that that group might not be right for you. If it feels bad to you, it's probably not right for you. There's also an element of like, if your energy is crazy high to where nobody's ever going to match it, then you might want to have a little grace with that. But you should find the best option you can, right? Like, just because you have a lot of energy that no one else is going to hopefully ever be able to match doesn't mean you should settle for the group with the energy down here. It means you should settle for the group that maybe isn't quite as high energy as you, but they're closer, right? So I'm totally okay with GMs walking away from groups that do not match your energy to find groups that match your energy better. GMs carry this hobby really on their backs. They're the ones who make it possible to even run games. Players are important. I'm not trying to say they're not, but GMs have to really ration that exertion. They really have to ration that and have to make it count. Otherwise, it's just going to be stressful for you. I'm going to go to the comments here real quick. I hear the comments chiming. Let's see. Profit Roll says, question for frequent GMs. Do you get burnout from actually playing combat and NPC dialogue? Okay, that's a good question. Combat can burn me out. Role play does not. NPC dialogue does not. If anything burns me out, it would be combat. That's my answer. Whispering Wisp says, yeah, after a year of GMing every week, it was a great relief to hand the reins over for a while. No, totally. Transcend Games says, yep, I said that. I'm Avery, by the way. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that you were Avery. Very cool. Dr. Fibes says, the idea of players going in another direction of all that hard work put in is strange to me. I always looked at my hard work as an oncoming train that can follow the players wherever they go. So that makes sense. And that sounds to me like the way that you're planning allows you to kind of pick it up and move it around a little bit if players do different things, or that it's more set overarching plan. So I think that that's a great way to plan. But that sounds like you're planning that way if your thought is that it's like an oncoming train, players can follow wherever they go. So it sounds like it's a little bit like interchangeable. Whispering Wisp says, Profit Roll, it was from weaving the story actively around players' actions. Lots of work. Yeah, no, that's fair. Steven says, my biggest stress is when players go left and I plan for right. That is stressful, super stressful. Transcend Game says that one was paraphrased. Yeah, I have a feeling it was paraphrasing. We'll adjust as we go. Hot Dice says, I'm using the help action on the GM Philosophy channel today. Heck yeah, absolutely. 20-sided dice says, sometimes I feel like playing online is way more demanding than playing in person, where you can just theater of the mind at will and have no battle maps. I think there's some truth to that. I do think there is some truth to that. But I've also noticed that there's an upside to that with virtual. And the upside to it is that in virtual, you can't really have multiple people talking at once. In person, I might have 3 people literally talking to you at the same time, and I'm trying to actually listen to all 3 of them. Whereas in virtual, it's just impossible. So you kind of just have to say, oh, what did you say? And that actually stretches things out and gives you more time. So in a way, virtual can be forgiving too. To me, that's how I feel about it. Garrick says, not particular combat or roleplay, just whatever isn't easy for you. I think that is true. It can be exerting whatever isn't easy for you. Profit Roll says, don't forget the like button. Heck yeah, thank you so much. Do not forget the like button. All right, let's move on to tip number 6, combat loneliness. Jackass Rampant said, OMG, DMing can be so lonely. Like if everyone sees you as the DM, you're always the last one to hear about everything. And then John Haney said, join a community of other GMs. Interaction with those in similar positions reduces the sense of loneliness. No man is an island. Please don't ever let yourself suffer alone. This is really actually good advice. GMing can be very lonely. You can feel, especially in those sessions where you like plan a lot, but then people have like kind of like criticisms. And I know players don't mean to criticize, but sometimes they'll just say little things that aren't actually a big issue, but they build up as feeling like criticism. And then they will, kind of like run through the game. They'll get done and then they'll hurry out the door, leaving you alone with your thoughts, alone with the criticisms, alone with all of the hours of plans you made that didn't get followed or that got disregarded. And then it's just done. That is a lonely place to be for me. That is a lonely place to be. And joining a community of other GMs is really good for that. This is good no matter what is stressing you out in life. If your work is stressing you out and you're an insurance salesman, joining a community of other insurance salesmen is probably going to be good for you. But when it comes to Gamemasters, yes. And join our Discord if that's what you'd like. At this point, there's over 300 members in the Discord, lots of awesome GMs in there talking every single day about the craft. So, feel free to join, but combat that loneliness. Don't let that just sink in and ruin your day, ruin your fun. Make yourself a mental note to celebrate after the session. Give yourself a pat on the back. Do not let those little discouragements build up to make it feel like you did a bad job. Because for me, that's where I go. There's loneliness, and then I start thinking, and then, oh, I did a bad job. That is not true, though. Number 7, don't be afraid to walk away. This is interesting. John Haney said, it's a great hobby, but it's a game. A game is not worth your mental, emotional, and social health. Avery Gino said, if you're not having fun as a DM, evaluate why. If need be, start the next session with essentially a second session 0 to reestablish some things and address the issues. If that doesn't work, walk away from the table. Okay, so this is a very good piece of advice. I feel like it could be permanent. Like when I say permanent, I mean like, for the foreseeable future, or it could be temporary, walking away for like 1 week, like taking a break. But sometimes you do have to realize it is a game and there isn't time. I spent about a year, it was a little less than a year, but I spent like probably 8 to 9 months taking a break from D&D not too long ago because I got stressed out. I actually got out of a long-term relationship. It was a super stressful time. I was going through work transitions. My work was sort of unstable at that time, and I was like, man, what am I going to do? I was kind of like leaving one chapter, looking for the next one, and also relationship ending at the same time. It was a very difficult time, and I had to walk away from it for like, you know, 7, 8, 9 months, something like that. And yes, sometimes you got to do it. And sometimes that is the best form of self care. And that's fair, super fair. Maybe become a player for a while until the itch comes back to GM. All right, we're going to go to tip number 8. Keep the game fun. It's not a job. John Haney said, isn't this supposed to be fun? If you find yourself viewing GMing as a second job rather than a hobby, set some boundaries for yourself and engage in something different for some of your hobby time instead. Yeah, if you stop having fun being a GM, don't do it anymore. We shouldn't be game masters just because we feel this sense of duty to our friends or something. We should be game masters because we enjoy it. And if we don't enjoy it, we should find a hobby we do enjoy. John Haney is 100% right. Let's go to tip number 9. Manage boundaries with friends and family. So Java Jedi said, interestingly, the game that draws the most energy out of me and that I struggle with session prep the most is my friends and family game. It's harder to set boundaries. I'm more likely to take someone not being ready for session or just not showing up personally and to feel taken for granted. Okay, so this is interesting. This is actually really interesting. And there's an element of this that I can identify with because over the last several years, my oldest kid has started playing D&D with me. And at this point, I've had 3 kids play D&D with me. Like I've got my oldest, and then 2 of my other kids have at this point joined the D&D table. And there is extra pressure because I love them and I want them to have a fun time, more so than I do anyone else. Not that I don't want everyone else to have a good time, but there's an extra amount of pressure that comes when it's people you love and care about. Not that you don't love and care about your gaming friends, but there's a difference if it's like, oh, we met at the game store. Oh, we're going to play D&D together once a week. Or if it's like your kid, or if it's your brother, or if it's your niece, that's different. And you just think to yourself, man, and it's me. I'm role playing with this person. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to burn them out. I don't want to dash their hopes for the game. So that is a lot of pressure. And managing those boundaries is really important. I try to manage those boundaries by just setting a mental boundary. Like with I've got one kid especially who is new, very new to the game. And how can I put this? She is really quickly getting the hang of it, but I'm so self-conscious of not doing things in game that are going to be too much for her. Does that make sense? Like pressure in the game, like a combat that's especially difficult, or a situation that's especially high pressure where her character has a lot riding on their shoulders, in the sense that a bunch of NPCs will be mad if she fails or something like that, right? So like pressures like that. I realize that for us as grown-ups, those in-game pressures are kind of fun, but for kids, it actually can be a lot. So it's like, try not to put so much pressure on, try to keep it light, try to keep it fun. And that is managing that is extra work, but that extra work is a form of self-care, because if I just didn't care about it and then things happened in game that maybe hurt her feelings or made her feel, oh, this is stressful. I don't want this to be stressful for her. I want it to be fun for her. So if I stressed her out during the game, running it in some way, maybe there was a quest she was supposed to do, and because she didn't do the quest, the NPCs were mad or something like that. If I were to do something like that really upset her in game, that would just be crushing. It would be crushing. So managing those boundaries is actually very important. So Java Jedi, great point there. Great point. I'm going to catch up on some of these comments here for a minute. Hey, everyone, we reached 22 viewers just a second ago, which I think is a new record. I'm not totally sure, but I think it's a new record. So heck yeah, that's awesome. I'm super pumped about that. Dr. Fime says, yes, Like the old cartoons where Willie or Wile E. Coyote tries to avoid the train by going down another tunnel to only see the light if the train's still coming. Yes, I get you. Profit Roll says, at what point can you call yourself a GM? I've run 2 one-offs so far. Still enjoying the honeymoon period and learning core stuff. You are totally a GM. If you have run any games, you're a GM. You're a GM. You may not be GMing a game right now, but you're still a GM. Dr. Five says, of the trains still barreled down, however, if we all walk away from the tables, what then? Yeah, no, I don't want to walk away from the table, but sometimes individuals do, I think is I think what the tip is. But but even more so, being a player, you're just, so this is how I think about it. And tell me if you think I'm wrong about this, but being a player is just a lot less stressful. It's just a lot easier. When I sit down to play, it's like, whoo, this is just fun. The pressure's on the GM. I'm just here to have a good time. And I can even like work with the GM, work together, add to the GM's stuff. But for me, there's just no pressure being a player as opposed to being a GM. I still feel, even after 20 years of GMing, I still feel a relative amount of pressure every time I sit down and run a game. It's like, I want to make this good. I want to be successful. I want this to be a fun game. So I think GMs are more likely to walk away from it than players, I think. Carl Swan says, it is a job for some of us, but still a blast to do. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I agree. My quote that he is talking about right now is versus the paid games I run. Oh, the family versus the paid games. Yes. Yeah, I do remember you said that in that Discord, and that did not end up here. I may have to go through and like manually grab the quotes I want to use, because I think ChatGPT kind of like, I think it did a little I think it did a little condensing, but that's okay. We're learning. Steven says, roll for emotional damage every day, every day. Martin Penny says, woo, viewer number 22. Heck yeah, now we're up to 23. Martin Penny, great to see you. Iskandar the Great, good to see you as well. Juberstan says, something I've learned recently, but highly recommend for GMs, is make your plot for the session versatile. Make it so when that specific player or the party hits anywhere interesting, the plot can be inserted there. It's made my sessions in GMing for myself a bit easier. I agree with you. I think that's a great approach, actually. Super great. And I think that that's the way to do it. After a while, you learn to do that, because otherwise you're going to just work, and you're going to use like 10% of that work. Hot Dice says, I'm so lucky that I get to play with friends and don't have to deal with all the problem people. If you don't have to deal with problem people, then you have found a great group, and you should be thankful for them. Buy them a soda. Carl Swan says, I paint miniatures when I'm a player versus DMing. Oh, do you paint miniatures like while you're playing, or you just mean in general? Anyway, all right. We're going to get back to the tips here. Let's see. Manage boundaries, stay organized, and capture ideas casually. Here's what Garrick said. I tend to let the prep tasks float lazily in the back of my mind as I do other things. Then, as the things gain more detail in my head, I try to find moments to write it down so I don't lose the ideas. That way, it isn't taking so much time away from the other parts of life. Actually, that is super familiar to me. That's how I do some of my prep too. That's how I prep NPC personalities, big bad personalities, and things like that. Like, I'll run through those things in my mind. So if I'm going to create a big bad, I'll have a concept. Maybe I'll have a song or two that like inspire me for that. And I'll have an idea of the way they look. But then when I go on walks or I work out or I'm doing like menial tasks that don't require thought processes, my brain will be working through, what kind of character are they? What is their history like? What's their personality like? And maybe I'll even run through dialogue of them giving like a speech or something. And this helps me to get in the zone and get to know those players. So that's how I do it. Now, as far as self-care goes, I think that realizing that is the best way for me to work through NPC and like big bad personalities is a form of self-care, rather than sitting down and pressuring myself to be like, okay, I'm going to write out 10 points about the personality of this character. Not that that isn't useful, but that might be stuff I don't have to do if I'm better suited to go through it in my mind while I'm doing other things, right? So there's an element here that is like the tip says, stay organized and capture ideas casually. Part of organizing your time and rationing your time might mean capturing ideas casually and being okay with that and realizing that that's totally cool and rad. Okay, point number 11. Align the game with the right players. Oh, this is so important. Itch Function said, sometimes we just need to accept that not every GM or player combination works. He didn't want to play the game you're running, so there's no reason for him to stay. And then Jackass Rampant said, recruiting players is really, really easy, so you never need to settle on the wrong one. Okay, first of all, Jackass Rampant, I agree with you, and I think that is a good mentality. That is an abundance type, realistic mentality. Don't fear the loss of the problem player. Fear the trouble the problem player might cause if you let them remain. I 100% agree with this. I don't think any GM should put up with players who take away from the game experience for them. 100%, I agree. And that what itch function said, not every GM player combination works. This is so true. And there is nothing that will sap your energy, bring you down, hurt the game experience for you, like a problem player who makes you feel bad about the game, about stuff that's not your fault. They might have preconceived ideas. They might want to try to control what you're doing. They might be rules lawyering you. They might be making passive aggressive jabs at you. No. We're here to play a game. You're not doing that to your players. Do not accept it from players. I totally agree. Align the game with the right players. Finding the right players. So much better to play with 3 cool people than 7 people and then having 4 of them be iffy and like, it's just not fun to play with them. Like, let's be honest. If it's not fun to play with them, don't play with them. I totally support this. All right, point number 12, reaffirm positive feedback. Focus on facts, not feelings. John Haney said this. Your players might forget to thank you for the session, but if they show up consistently, this means they are enjoying your efforts and are grateful for them, even if they don't explicitly state it. That is true. They would not show up for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours every week or every 2 weeks or whatever if they were not enjoying themselves. They are enjoying themselves, and you deserve to see that as a factual statement, even if they do not tell you they appreciate you. But you should be told you're appreciated. But let's be honest, it doesn't happen that often. I always tell my GMs when I'm playing with them, hey, thanks for in the session. Super good session. I try to really let them know exactly what I thought, which is usually, I love it. It was awesome. It was so much fun. Here's what I plan to do. Like moving forward, here's some ideas I have for my character. And if I have any concerns, I bring it up with them. Like, for example, in playing in William's game, playing Gromizek, Lawful Evil Bard Minotaur. I had one concern about the 2024 character stuff. Basically, I was supposed to make a 2014 character, but I made it 2024 because I wasn't quite sure how to use D&D Beyond, and I messed it up. And I was a little concerned because I really liked the 2024 Bard. And so I said to William, hey, William, here's one concern I have. I know that you were kind of hoping to run more 2014 stuff, but there is some super cool stuff in the 2024 Bard. Here's what I was thinking. Could we go through it and maybe you can tell me which things are not cool in the hopes of salvaging some of the stuff from 2024 that I do like. And we did it, and it was totally cool. And that was my only concern that I had. And that wasn't even his problem, really. He didn't even create that problem, but he still walked through it with me and helped me come to a satisfactory conclusion where I was pumped about the character. And so boom. But GMs deserve that positive feedback. If you don't get it, which you probably won't, look at the players continuing to come back as evidence that you're doing a great job. Because if you were truly a bad GM, you just wouldn't have anyone play with you. And let me tell you this. I'll tell you this from experience. I have been the GM in the past that nobody wanted to play with. In the very early days, before I knew what the heck I was doing, I would get a bunch of people to come to my games, and I would literally run them off with my bad GMing. I would run a game and everyone would complain, and then I'd invite them back and they'd be like, no, I don't think it's for me, bro. That's what they'd say. That changed when I started learning how to be a better GM. It started to turn into people saying, hey, can we do this next week? Right? So that's the difference. I'm telling you, people will not continue to play with you if you're a terrible GM. So feel good about that. Feel good about the fact that people keep coming back. And we have our final point number 13, play games that sharpen GM skills. Jackass Rampant said, Blood Bowl really puts me in the DM mindset, but in a way where I get to be just one among many people doing the same thing in the same group. You can keep yourself sharp without having to hurl yourself so consistently into the fire. Now, I'm not totally sure what Blood Bowl is. This is definitely a comment that probably could have used some context. But in fact, one among many people doing the same thing in the same group. You can keep yourself sharp without having to hurl yourself so consistently into the fire. The tip is play games that sharpen GM skills. I'm thinking Blood Bowl is a game that puts you in the DM mindset, but I don't know what it is. Let me Google it. I'm going to Google Blood Bowl. What is Blood Bowl? A board game of sports mayhem where scoring points and smashing your rivals wins fame and glory. Is that what we're talking about here? That might be what we're talking about. It might be. So anyway, but I will say this. I think that being a GM helps you to sharpen your skills as a GM. And I'll also say this. Sometimes when you as a GM feel like you've hit a limit, sometimes you feel like, I'm not ready for the session tonight. Or you think to yourself, I don't have the energy for the session tonight. Or you think to yourself, you know what? I spent so much energy planning for the session that at this point, I'm kind of burnt out on it already. When I run into those things, I don't cancel the session because I don't want to. What I do is I pull way back and I say, hey, it's cool. We're here for fun. I'm going to set up my stuff. I'm going to get out my dice. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to greet everyone. And we're just going to start going around the table and role playing. I'm going to let the players lead and I'm going to just be chill. And maybe I'm going to get rumbling off to a slow start. And that is totally fine. There is no pressure for me to be this high performing GM 100% of the time. And this helps me to learn to be a better GM because those little skills get sharpened by just showing up and putting in those reps. And I don't mean putting in those reps in a way of where it's like work. It is work. It's fun work, and I enjoy it, but it still sharpens the skills. Okay. So boom, that is going to be tip number 13.